Hello everyone. In today's video, we're going to take a deeper look at our indicators and performance measures and how you can disaggregate them. This is a useful tool to break down indicators by demographics to provide extra context and can assist us with understanding how our efforts are being applied through our performance measures. The process for both measures is exactly the same, so today we will utilize a performance measure for our example. So let's say we wanted to start to disaggregate our performance measure by region and also have it calculate a total for our state so that all of them are displayed on the same graph. So we'll go back to our performance measure created in the last video and tweak some settings to make this work. You'll change your graph settings to sum child measures first. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. You can see we have our demo food banks statewide performance measure. We'll click into this graph or into this measure, go up to edit, and go down to our data properties. And then right now it's not calculated, but we're going to change that to where it says sum. Once that's here, press save. So now once that's saved, you'll need to go back into the objects option and click on performance measures again. Be sure that you add the new option instead of utilizing any of the existing measures. We're going to start creating our child measures that will then be added into that parent measure we just now saw. So for this, we're going to say demo food banks. This will be for the low country in this situation, not low county. Yeah. We're not going to add any tags. We're going to make sure that the frequency matches what we had for our parent measure. So that's going to be annually. We're going to want to make sure that this is higher is better. Keep the rest the same. And on this one, this is going to be the child measure, so we're not going to calculate anything here. You can always add in something in a definition. If you don't feel like doing that right now, you can always do it later. Press save and exit. Now, once we're on this screen, what we're going to want to do is add in the data that's going to eventually be aggregated up into that parent measure we started out with. We're going to click edit, start our data. So let's go ahead and get the same number of years. In this situation, we're going to do 2026 through 2023. We're going to come up with some values on this. So let's say, for example, that in the low country, there were 5 food banks in 2023, 7 in 2024, 9 in 2025, and 11 in 2026. And bear with me, this is just an example. I don't think that's anywhere close to what the actual number is. Once we're done here, press save. And that's all we're going to do with this measure. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is go back to our objects, and we're going to make its counterparts. We're going to go back to measures, performance measures, and let's add us another new one. So this one is going to be a demo for food banks in the upstate. And in this example, we only had the low country and the upstate. We're not going to do all 4, but it'll work the same way regardless of how many of these child measures that you have together. Make sure that this matches with our annual frequency. We got our polarity fixed. Once again, we're not going to mess with the calculation or the definition. We can always go back and fix that later. Save and exit. And we're going to add in our data here too. Go ahead and go to data, same years, and it doesn't have to be the same years. You'll still be able to aggregate, but it will give you a notification that some of the data points are missing. So that is something just to note. It's not going to break it if you don't have all of the same data. It's good to have all of the same data just for the graph's sake, but you don't have to. So we're going to do the same time period, 2023 through 2026. Let's say the upstate was not doing very well. They had 0, then they had 5, then they had 6, and then this year they just did a great job and we're up to 15 somehow. All right, you can go ahead and press save. And then we're good with both of these measures. Now what we're going to do at this point, since we have all of our child measures outlined with the data added into them, we go back to our home page. We're going to click on our parent measure. It's going to take a second to load. And now we're going to look to actually add those child measures in here. So we can see that you have kind of 3 options down here at the bottom. What you're going to click on is existing measure. Up here, you can mess with the type if you want it to be a performance measure indicator, but you don't have to do that to be able to search through all of them. And what we're going to say is food banks. And we're also going to change the relationship, but I'll do that right after I search this. Here we go. All right, so that's the one thing that I did skip over very quickly there, but to make sure that we're adding them into the right bucket within this parent performance measure, we want to make sure that we're clicking on disaggregated child. So you have these three options, parent, child, or comparee. In this specific instance, we're going to click child. Now you can see we have our two options here. Once again, like we said last time, we'll make sure that we actually hit the check boxes where we have checks in both. And then before you press add, let's go ahead and press yes on add to comparison. Now we're ready to press add. Now it's working on it. So now, as you can see, we have this added into our disaggregated measures and our measures to compare on the graph. And this is a cumulative amount for each. Now, if you want to see, if you want to add in the extra information, I think you have to go into graph settings. Yep. So, okay. So what you would need to do is go into graph settings next, because right now all we see is that aggregated amount. But if you wanted to see both of those regions in addition to the full amount, you're going to go into display options. You're going to see a new button here that will not be there if you don't press yes on add this to comparison. And we're going to make sure that that is toggled on. Now, once we press save this time, you should have your total for statewide, your upstate, and your low country food banks all in one place. Now, this works exactly the same way for your indicators as it does for your performance measures. So if you can do it and disaggregate your measures or have your graph set up the way that you want it to be as a performance measure, you can do it for your indicators. Now, before we conclude this video, I did want to add in one last thing to consider here. So say in some situations, you might want to have several different lines on this graph for, each of your regions or for however you end up disaggregating your information, but you might not want to sum it. You might not want to add everything together. Instead of having to go back and redo this completely, you're just going to do a couple simpler things. So the first thing, so you're going to go down here and see that these two measures are still underneath our disaggregated measures that are used to calculate this measure. We're going to take those off in this instance. So both of them. We're going to go up here to the top, press edit. We're going to go to data properties, and we're going to change our calculation type to not calculated. And once we press save, it may not immediately update on this graph. There we go. It did this time. So you'll still see that there is an option for that statewide measure, but it is no longer displayed on your graph. Now all you have that's displayed is your low country and your upstate pieces. So if we go back to our demo scorecard on the home page, you'll see that reflected here. So thank you again for your time today with watching this video. We hope to see you again for our next one.